Hi, I'm here with actor Victor Joel Ortiz, and you can look forward to Victor being on Person of Interest in the early part of 2014 in January.
January 6th.
Also working on a project called Power.
Uh-huh.
So why don't you talk a little bit about what led you into the world of acting and when you first decided you wanted to do it as a career?
I think really it began at my grandma's house watching Star Wars on HBO. I didn't comprehend that they were actors and it was a job or anything like that. I just remember really loving the story and just being taken away in that world and just being really impressed with it all, moved by it all and what the power of that story is, the mythology of it, and so I remember that was my earliest memory. I was like, I want to do what they're doing.
Very cool. And did you study that as your major, or did you have a backup major?
Well, it's funny, I read this book called True and False, Heresy and Common Sense for the Actor by David Mamet. Yeah. And it said, there can be no backup plan for acting because if you have a backup plan, you will do the backup plan. This is too hard to do any other way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad I read that early on, and then I just kind of went all the way with it, go big or go home, And so I did. I studied theater in college. I was in the BFA at FIU. But I ended up changing my major to liberal arts 3/4 of the way done with the program because my understanding of it was that I needed to study with the best acting teachers I could to be the best actor I could be. And I knew that those were in New York. I didn't know who they were, but I knew that they were in New York. And further, I think that the most interesting actors are interesting people. And you can only really put out what you have in you. And so for me, a degree in liberal arts made a lot of sense because I would learn a little bit about a lot of things, kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. And I knew that that would be very conducive to being a good actor.
And when you got to New York, you studied here. You also did some daytime soap work.
I did. I did some extra work is actually how I began. I studied with Terry Schreiber for 2 years, and a lot of background stuff, I mean, I'd never been on a set before. I remember the day before they called me to tell me that I was going to be an extra, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep the night before. I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to be on a TV set tomorrow. This is going to be awesome, And then from there, they gave me a couple of under fives, All My Children, One Life to Live, and As the World Turns were generous enough to give me my first cop roles and set the standard for what would be a plethora of them. But it's a good career track. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's better to be on that side of the law, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, people say, oh, you're typecast. Listen, the second word of typecast is cast. I'm very happy being typecast,
It's such a, I don't know, people always have a negative connotation to it, and there's nothing wrong with it.
It's about the work.
Absolutely. Because if you didn't feel confident enough about the part that you were playing, you wouldn't have done it. So on those, when you first started getting those under 5 roles, did you just stand there and soak it all in of how things work behind the camera and not necessarily how you should behave, because obviously, you're old enough to know that.
Yeah. By the time I started getting the under 5 roles, I had actually done a lot of Columbia and NYU student films. I always tell people it's a great resource. I'm very proud to say that I made about 60 plus Columbia and NYU student films. And that's really how I learned to do it. Incidentally, of those 60, 42 of them I couldn't even use.
Right.
Because I wasn't very good in them, or the sound was bad, or the lighting was bad, or the set was bad, or whatever it was. Or maybe it was a knockoff of like Apocalypse Now, and I'm just doing the scene for a student for his class. But there's no better way to learn than to act on film There's no class to teach you how to act on film.
Right.
All the classes in New York are theater classes. And so by the time I started getting under 5s and started booking roles, I had done enough work that I had a lot of footage. I'm working now on my 5th reel from all that footage that I've done. So I felt very comfortable in doing it. It didn't seem to me any different than what I was doing with the, Columbia or NYU MFA students. I remember feeling that way for Men in Black 3. When I got cast in Men in Black 3, I remember thinking to myself, I'm on set, I have lines opposite Will Smith, and Josh Brolin's there and Mike Stuhlbarg, and I remember thinking, I wasn't nervous. And I remember thinking, I should be nervous. This is like, I've never done anything like this. This is a big deal, But I just remember feeling like this is the same thing that I've always done. I'm saying it to a big movie star now, but the job doesn't change so much.
Right.
And I think the only reason that I had that confidence is because I made so many of those student films that it felt like, I've always done this. It didn't feel that different.
And now, being in those bigger budget films, what did you take away from those for use when you go back on to, say, a co-starring role on a show? Was there something that was taught to you by either a certain actor on a set, or, not necessarily naming names, just
Sure.
Was there something that you learned being on a grander scale of set that you were able to bring in and tone down for a television set?
I don't know that I learned, because the job is kind of the job. It's really
Right.
what I really focus and concentrate on is what the character wants, what the intention is, and it's funny. The Tom Hanks rule: show up on time and know your lines, and you're halfway there. That's really my objective going into anything. Is really that. Don't be the weak link. Because there's a lot of money, specifically on the bigger budget productions. And you don't want to be the guy that messes up.
Right.
So actively listen, I think, is really good advice. Here it is. Listen. Don't wait to talk. What's that old saying? I forget who says it. It's please don't understand me too quickly. Please don't rush to understand me. I forget who said that. I want to say it was. I read it in a Mike Nichols interview. God rest in peace. But he would say that to his actors, and I thought, yeah.
Now, you said you had done over 60 student films. Was there one that stuck out in your mind, either because of the, for lack of a better word, craziness of the role you were playing, or the subject nature that you kind of had to pinch yourself that you were playing the part? In terms of, it could have been an out there plot, you could have been doing something that was a little out there that you wouldn't normally think you would play.
In one specifically, I actually played a rapist, and in the scene, there was nudity involved, and I remember thinking, I remember feeling very safe because the NYU filmmakers really all took extreme measure to talk to everybody and block it out, and the actress that I was acting opposite, we understood, that there are boundaries there and there's a lot of respect, but yeah, I remember thinking, I can't believe that I'm doing this. They put pantyhose around my genitalia, and I guess that's how the big movie stars do it. I remember watching Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and the opening scene is Philip Seymour Hoffman and Marissa Tomei going at it, totally naked, and I remember thinking, how are they doing that?
Right.
I mean, is that like that? But that's how it's done. There's like a sock thing that they put on you, and that's what it is. You can't, as an actor, you got to be able to go there.
Had you done, one of my favorite questions is always, have you had to do a horror film on your way up the ladder?
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And what was the best part of being in something like that?
I did do a horror film. The first lead that I had in a feature was called Blood Kisses, by a very talented writer, director, producer also, in this case, Bob Kornheiser. And it was actually nominated for Best Picture and Best Screenplay at the Madrid International Film Festival this year, 2014. So it was, a vampire horror movie. I played a teacher that had in his bloodline vampirism, and a lover came from the dead to kind of retrieve my soul. It was a lot of fun to do. The question was, what did I
what was it like doing something with the gore and the fake makeup and all that kind of stuff?
Uncomfortable, if anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember having, blood makeup on me and, the costumes and stuff. It was out there, but it was a great experience. A lot of what I learned, aside from the Columbia and NYU student films, this was actually in that same era. I was still doing student films while I was doing this. A lot of what I learned about acting on film came from Blood Kisses, and I'm always going to be grateful to Bob for that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And now that you are booking roles pretty consecutively,
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
what's that like for you? You just said you're very grateful, but what's it like to know that you're going to be on a set pretty, with your track record as, as it's been for the last couple of years, you've worked steadily. So that's got to be a good feeling.
It does feel good, but only in the dictionary does success come before work. I definitely put the time in, it feels good. The truth is, though, I kind of like to keep a little bit of a distance from it, in that I always like to keep in mind it's not about me. I'm always there to serve the story. It's a series of letting go. The writer lets it go to the director lets it go to the actors let it go to the audience. And so I think a lot of actors that get in trouble are the ones that think it's all about them. It's what helps me keep perspective is that it's never about me. It's always about serving the story and the other actor. Make the other actor look good.
Well, you are certainly, obviously, a very humble actor, and don't seem to make it all about you in the least, which I think people will see in this interview. And it's great to see somebody have such a non-quote-unquote attitude about themselves, and while taking your work seriously, you also know that you're lucky and have a very positive attitude for whatever role it is that you do book. So I thank you for sitting down with me, and look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
No problem.
Thank you.